Hey there, Patriots. This is True Outlaw Patriot coming at you with another one. The video clip that I'm about to show you is something that just came out from ABC about an hour ago. Okay? And it pertains to the shooter crooks that tried to assassinate President Trump. Now, the reason why I want to play this clip is because, like I said, it came out an hour ago, but I am going to, right after showing this clip and putting my my thoughts into it, we're going to get to the third part of the Dan Bongino testimony in front of Congress. If anybody doesn't know, I put out two videos, one last night and one the night before. This will be the last of that that testimony that him and the other two police officers, I believe there were, one guy by the name of last name Prince, I didn't catch the other guy's name, but they're all them three are in front of 5 members of Congress that are investigating what had happened during that day in Pennsylvania, in Butler, Pennsylvania. Okay, two of the people, you know their name, which is Matt Gaetz and Chip Roy. Matt Gaetz is from Florida, Chip Roy is from Texas, that are part of the five-man panel that's getting basically insight from Dan Bongino and two other security experts on what happened and like what else is going on, like trying to get to the bottom of how in the world did this 20-year-old kid do what he did, okay, and doing it under the radar. Now, like I said, I'm playing this clip. If anybody seen the last two videos, Dan Bongino, especially last night on the second video, which I showed, he came out and said something that's very, very peculiar, that all of a sudden today, ABC News, okay, like I said, this just came out an hour ago. By the time you see this video, it'll probably be 2 or 3 hours old. But you're going to find something very peculiar, and I'm going to point it out when I play this video. Okay, so bear with me. Like I said, watch this, and we're going to go into the last bit of the testimony with Dan Bongino. But before I continue, I just want to thank all my new subscribers and all my subscribers here on YouTube and on Rumble. So don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around. And if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. Also, the super thanks are on. I'm also going to leave a link in the description to the video. It was put out by Forbes. Okay, so if you guys want to watch the whole thing from its entirety, and I'm also leaving a link, two links in the description to help out my friend Josie with her Give Send Go campaign, and Loza Alexander with his GoFundMe campaign. If you guys can help them. If you can just go there and give them words of encouragement, maybe leave a couple of prayers for them, okay, help lift up their spirits to help them get through these hard times that they're dealing with these, medical conditions. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into this, okay, and I tell you, I mean, I'm just blown away getting home from work, and I was like, all right, let me see what's going on. And there's, just looking at, there's so much stuff that is out, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, I could put out 10 videos tonight of different things that are coming out of the news. But this particular news clip came out, and it's the only one I seen that's out. And I was like, there is no way this just came out. And supposedly it was information that was put out by the FBI. Okay, but without further ado, let's check this out, and I'm going to point out what's going on. Here we go.
There is news tonight in the FBI investigation into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. New images of the shooter's weapon. And tonight, federal investigators revealing that the suspect had looked up both Trump and President Biden. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Peter Thomas.
This is the assault-style rifle that the FBI says Thomas Matthew Crooks used to try and kill former President Trump in western Pennsylvania, and what the Bureau is calling a target of opportunity. Tonight, authorities say that...
All right. The first 28 seconds, it's already full of fluff. Okay, they're already fluffing it up. The first thing they said was that this kid Crooks, okay, had it out for Trump and for Biden. Okay, and then they go and say that this was an act of opportunity. Do you see what's going on right now? It already started. It already started. That this, I'm telling you, this, I've been saying it the last couple of videos, this definitely stinks to high heaven. Listen to the way they keep explaining the situation here. And this is less than a 2-minute video put out by ABC. Look at the way they're already trying to spin the narrative. Check this out.
That while the motive remains unknown, Crooks was apparently obsessed with violence for years, researching how to build bombs back as early as 2019.
You heard what he said? He was out there trying to build bombs since as early as 2019. In the video last night, Dan Bongino says that there is no information. He left no footprint online, in a library computer, at home, social media, nothing that he was looking up any kind of information to build bombs, trying to find out about weapons, anything like that. And right away, here they come. Okay, all of a sudden, how ironic, a day later, okay, a couple of days later, I should say, since Dan Bongino put out all that information, now all of a sudden the FBI is finding out all this information as if trying to put a footprint on this kid. Okay? Pay attention.
They say he was engaged in a sustained, detailed effort to plan an attack on some event. According to FBI officials, Crooks conducted more than 60 searches related to former President Trump and President Biden, even looking up, quote, when is the DNC convention and when is the RNC in 2024?
Right.
This summer, after receiving word that Trump would be holding a rally near his home, Crooks became, quote, hyper-focused on the July Pennsylvania rally. Even searching online, quote, where will Trump speak from at the Butler Farm show? The FBI also releasing this image of Crooks' gun broken down into parts. The backpack authorities suspect he used to carry it.
Okay, I'm going to cut it off right now. This is a crock of shit. Number one, as far as him finding out where the rallies are at, I can't speak too much on that, but I will tell you this. Okay, not too long ago, I looked up to find out if Trump was coming to the county that I'm living in. Okay, nothing popped up. As a matter of fact, nothing really popped up of when his next rally was anywhere. Okay, now that's just me. That's just me looking up to find out, you know, where he's going to be if I can try to make it to one of the rallies. But I didn't find anything of when his next rally was. Okay, we'll take all that with a grain of salt. That's number one. Number two, they're saying that he had his gun, okay, in parts in a backpack, okay, when one of the witnesses, the day of the shooting, okay, it was a guy with a red cap and I think he had a red shirt on, if I remember correctly. He was saying to news reporters, he was saying, okay, that he's seen Crooks trying to climb up the ladder, okay, mind you, trying to climb up the ladder with the rifle on his shoulder, and he was having a hard time fidgeting trying to hold the rifle while he was trying to climb up. You see how all this is starting to turn around? Now listen to this best part. Now, this is the part right here that people think, well, whoever is putting out this information obviously is doing it very, very sloppy. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Here we go.
And these images of the explosive devices found inside Crooks' car and the air conditioning unit they say he used to climb onto a roof.
Okay, you just heard that, right? The air conditioning unit that he used to climb onto the roof. Okay? When the whole scenario from the beginning, all they did was show a 10-foot ladder, saying that he took a ladder, propped it up on the side of a building, and climbed up straight up onto that building. Okay? There's another video out there, all right, of agents in back of the building on one of the back doors, and I believe it's a ramp, where they're trying to hoist each other up, which is only, I mean, it's only got to be about 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, whatever the case is, okay? And they couldn't get each other up. They were trying to get ladders to get up there. They could not boost each other up. But now they're saying that Crooks jumped on this air conditioner to get onto the roof. When all they said from the beginning, and they showed it on nearly every damn news outlet that was showing it, they kept showing the ladder that was in in between two buildings, propped up against the building. They said that was the ladder he used to climb up to the roof, which supposedly, okay, and I may be wrong, but I heard that that was the same ladder that the cop used to climb up, and when Crooks turned around, he fell off the ladder. When Crooks turned around and pointed the gun at him. So, now this information's coming out? Unbelievable. Let's continue.
Yeah, look, there he is.
And the FBI today definitive about exactly how long Crooks was on that roof. A total of 6 minutes. First spotted about 6:05 p.m., roughly the same time Trump takes the stage.
The FBI has done nearly 1,000 interviews, but after all this time has yet to determine the shooter's motive. David, this appears to be truly a loner.
And I love the way he finishes it. This is a loner. In other words, he did all this on his own. He planned all this for the past couple of years, all on his own, got the weapon, did what he had to do, scoped the place out, got a drone, flew the drone over, walked around, got onto the roof, all by himself. And now all of a sudden, Dan Bongino comes out and says that the kid left no kind of footprint. Social media, search engine, nothing. Nothing at all. And now all of a sudden they're saying that he had done some searching on his computer, looking up how to build a bomb. Okay? He was able to look up where the DNC was going to be, where the RNC was going to be, where Joe Biden was going to be, where Trump was going to be. I don't know, people. I don't know. This just sounds like, you know what? They are trying to cover. It's not that they. I believe they're trying to cover it up, but they're also trying to figure out a way to say, you know what? Wait a minute. Where we messed up was that kid basically is a ghost. And people are noticing, so now we have to come up with a scenario from point A all the way to point Z. This is incredible, I'm telling you. And this just came out, like I said, as I'm making this video, this came out an hour ago. How come it's not all over the media? Why is it that one news media is putting it out? In my opinion, only one's going to put it out, and then they're going to let it snowball, and that's exactly what it's going to be. That Crooks was out to get whoever he could. When he went after Trump, it was because of opportunity. Unbelievable. I tell you, this, people, man, you got to think outside the box on this one like there's no tomorrow. You just have to. But with that being said, I just thought I had to put this out before I play the rest of the video of what I was showing you guys the last two nights. Because this just blows my mind. This totally blows my mind. I mean, talk about a farce, man. Talk about a farce. And it's going to be very interesting in the next few days to come. Okay, the next few days, weeks, whatever the case is. How the whole plot, okay, is going to twist around. Because the kid was a nobody. And people bring up the fact that he was a nobody, and now all of a sudden the FBI is trying to make him a somebody. Okay? No, I'm sorry. I'm calling total BS on it. Total BS. But without further ado, let's get to the rest of the interview with Dan Bongino. In my case, it's part 3. The guys that are doing the questioning, they call it the second round, which is the final round of questioning. And you're going to find some stuff that's going to be very, very interesting in this last piece. So it's going to be a long one again, but I'll try to do my best to keep my comments to a minimal. So like that, everybody, you know, I mean, the last video was over an hour. The one before that, almost an hour. But, I mean, if you guys watch it, I mean, it helps. It helps with the channel and the algorithm. So and I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate you guys watching all my content. And there's also something, if I remember, that I want to throw in at the end of the video, just so you guys can be aware. But without further ado, let's get into it. Let's watch the rest of it, and prepare to be surprised again. I'm telling you. Here we go. Let's go.
Thank you so much. I want to just try to hit some quick questions. when Mr. Schaefer, you were talking to us earlier about moving to texting. The counter snipers were texting. What does that do with your ability to stay on glass?
Was a secondary or possibly even a third method of communication as it was utilized that day. The sniper teams in the law enforcement concept sometimes are not a team. Sometimes we're deployed into situations where we're a single operator. So we're not only responsible for the surveillance aspect of the service we provide, but also having that deadly threat ability on board. So that can be very distracting in that point in that day. That third level of communication would have pulled us away from our primary responsibilities to provide that deadly cover if needed.
Thank you. And Mr. Prince, you mentioned security bubbles. And I want you to elaborate on that because we've talked a little bit about the perimeter. And the perimeter seems oddly narrow in this particular instance. Can you talk about security bubbles and the perimeters here?
As Dan was talking, right, the normal that bubble is out to 1,000 yards based on how far a capable sniper can take a shot. The fact is, clearly this bubble was less than 100 yards because they disregarded the industrial facility, the water tower, etc. And it speaks to the lack of seriousness of Secret Service leadership in how they were conducting these missions. I don't think they regarded Trump as a worthy protectee. They were doing the absolute minimum.
Yep.
And I say my greater concern is as you look at all the litany of failure is long and deep. And if it tips towards malice, that opens up an entirely different can of worms.
Oh shit, yeah.
Because it's hard to be part of a republic with people that actually want to kill you.
Exactly.
Political disagreement, fine. Sell it at the ballot box. But if people don't want to sell it at the ballot box, then it gets sold by a cartridge box. And that's a very, very dangerous road to go down.
And you know, it's true what he's saying. It's true what he's saying that when it gets to the point that people feel that, you know what, they cannot get their way by voting, they will start trying to get their way by physical force. Case in point, look at what happened in Mexico, what Dan Bongino said. 27 conservative politicians were assassinated. Okay? Let that sink in and let that put fear in people that, you know what, if anybody thinks that in this day and age that politicians or whoever's in charge will not try to win an election by hook or by crook, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. I mean, we hear it all the time. The reason why I say let that scare you is because we hear about it in other countries. Okay? I mean, the whole thing with JFK, that's been a conspiracy, I mean, for what? 50, almost 60 years now, whatever the case is. Okay, well, it's about 60 years now. And you would think that with the way things have changed in America, especially the way people on the left and the powers that be say, you know what, no, if you don't like this law, you got to vote on it, or, you know, vote to change it. We hear that all the time. If it's getting to the point that now they just want to be, whoever it is, wants to be brazen enough to go and attack and try to kill someone that they disagree with on a political level, we're no better than these third world countries that are doing this. We're not. You know? But that happens because the left keeps putting fear and keeps spreading this agenda of hate over and over and over again. Okay? How many times have people from the left, okay, have tried to murder or have murdered people on the right because of the hateful agenda that they keep spreading is nothing but hate. Trump's are racist, MAGA Republicans are racist, they're homophobes, they're this, they're gonna put you in chains, they're gonna take away your rights. I mean, it's getting to the point that there was some people out there that are gay that was saying that Trump's gonna start locking up gay people. I mean, this freaking non-stop narrative of just hate. And then they want people to think that, oh no, that was just some deranged person that did that. Let me tell you something. If you hold any power in politics, especially in politics, and you could keep putting out a message of hate, you best believe that they are also capable, okay, in my opinion, of putting out a hit on somebody. But let's continue.
Right, and well, we could go on that. I know some of my other my colleagues might want to do that as well. But I want to get to one last point, and that before I run out of time, and that is another failure. I think everybody here is probably everybody up in this group anyway has been with a president or a protectee, and there's been some kind of security hold. I mean, we've just stopped, and you say you're going to hold. Why was there no security hold put on Trump at any time if you had some kind of individual? I mean that Ben, as Mr. Schaefer has described, actually did arise to a threat level. Why was there no security hold put on President Trump? Why was he allowed to go on the stage? Why wasn't he taken down? Why didn't we see a pause?
For me?
Yeah.
What makes your question even more impactful is every Secret Service site for a high threat level protectee has what they call a holding room, which you would guess is for holding the protectee. I see Congressman Casey because it's actually called the holding room. The holding room is for things just like this. The holding room is let's say a congressman shows up and is a little late. There's an accident. They'll hold him in the holding room saying, "Enjoy, you all have been in it. None of this is new. You've been in the holding room. There's a Secret Service agent at the door. You guys have congressional hardpins. A staffer escorts you in. Every one of you has seen this or will in the Trump administration. This is not a mystery to anyone." Why was he put on what Eric had called, accurately so, the X? We use the exact same terminology as the military. The X is where that protectee or that limo with the protectee in it is. Why was he put on the X? You have an open threat. Ben has described, and your timeline lays out, was there for an hour. I'm not going to play any word games. Were they a threat or suspicious? Well, if you're a threat, it's because you're doing something suspicious. And if you're suspicious, it's because you could be a threat. These are silly, stupid word games. You know when it's not a threat? When your CSU or PI team goes and grabs the guy and determines he's not a threat. Until then, your question's accurate. You put him in the holding room, which is the point of a holding room.
Exactly.
So I just want to follow that up. And you made the point earlier about counter surveillance. There were no counter surveillance teams there. There's a public domain videos of him, Mr. Crooks, wandering around. Was there anything in his behavior wandering around that if he would have had a counter surveillance team there, it would have triggered an interaction with this guy earlier?
I'm going to answer yes, but respectfully, and I know you understand, the CSU and PI teams are trained in very specific behavioral indicators that would give off, and speaking about them openly would probably give operational knowledge to bad guys. I know you understand that, but the short answer is not only one, but many behavioral indicators he was giving off that if we could talk in a secure setting, you'd be like, how did they miss this? The CSU team would not have missed it if they...
You see the way Dan Bongino puts it? He knows exactly what he's talking about. Let me tell you something, man. Dan Bongino, I mean, I know that he's got his life going on. He's got a lot of different businesses going on. He's doing his thing. But I tell you what, I think, in all honesty, if he chose, I guess, if Donald Trump, would want him, I think that will be one of Donald Trump's best decisions, is to hire Dan Bongino, take him. I mean, I don't know if he can take him away from the businesses that he has. He does a lot of things, but to have a guy like him in charge of Secret Service. I mean, not only of Secret Service, but I mean, like, one of the major security organizations in America. These are the kind of people that that Americans should want serving the country. Okay. And I mean for a very long time, because he's already proven that regardless of who he had to protect, like I said, And he said he protected Clinton, Obama, and Bush. It shows right there that his thing is about the job, trying to keep security, making sure it doesn't matter. The job is to make sure that there is no chaos that's going to come near anyone. Okay? He basically proved himself that he pushed all his biases aside and he did the job. And that's the way it should be in these organizations, but it's not. They've been compromised, and and like I said before in the other video, it doesn't matter in which big organization. If you let the criminal mindset in, it's going to infiltrate. Okay? And there's going to be problems. But many people don't see it like that. People see it as if Crook was the freaking hero. It's disgusting. It truly is. But let's continue.
They were there, which they weren't.
Thank you so much, Mr. Biggs. We will now go to the Honorable Eli Crane for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Bongino, do you have any confidence that Secret Service has learned their lesson?
No, because I've been involved in a number of, we have 10 years in the Secret Service. I was in the training center when the Georgia grenade nearly exploded. And, the only reason it didn't kill President Bush is because the guy wrapped it in a towel. That's it. It's the only reason he survived, because we got lucky. And the changes made from that lasted about a month. They added more magnetometers. And then basically the same problems resurface again, so no.
Unbelievable.
I want to read a text to you and see what your thoughts are on this. Do you know who Joe Kent is?
Who?
Mr. Bongino? Joe Kent, he's running for Congress right now, Special Forces guy.
Oh, yes.
Up in Washington.
Yeah.
This is a text he sent me on, I believe, Monday, August 19th. He said, "Hey, brother, I know you are doing an independent J13 investigation. I want to share this anecdote with you from my experience with Speaker Mike Johnson's U.S. Secret Service detail this weekend. Bottom line up front, Speaker's detail was incredibly lax, failed to seal off all entrances to a very small venue. Johnson wasn't secured and very easy to access. Long version. We had a local steakhouse host my fundraiser with the Speaker. Location was only available after people RSVP'd. But the entrances to the steakhouse had Kent for Congress signs on the two entrances. One entrance was inside the hotel, one out on the street in a busy pedestrian area. I arrived about 45 minutes early to check out the venue and to make sure my team had stuff ready. I also wanted to see if the U.S. Secret Service had a checkpoint set up. I carry everywhere. I planned on leaving my pistol in a hotel room my team had there. I entered the hotel, followed the Kent signs into the steakhouse, and immediately walked up to the unsecured holding room the Speaker was in.
Wow.
He was on a call, so he did not notice me. Neither did any of his detail. His detail was inside the restaurant just BSing. No control over the two entrances at all. Once the event started, they put on a good show and looked the part. I can't interpret their intent, but they failed a basic, simple task. Secure the two entry points, a shocking level of incompetence. The event was in Vancouver in the shadow of Portland, Oregon.
Huh.
Mr. Bo.
Think about that. In a place that is so damn liberal, you have a Republican there, okay, to do a speaking event, and the one job the Secret Service has, which is one man at one door, one man at another door, or man or woman, whatever you want, and just watching those doors, making sure that there is no threat. And they can't even do individually one freaking job. And out of all places, Oregon, okay, where I consider, in all honesty, I'm not trying to insult the good people of Oregon, but we all know how bad Oregon is when it comes to like these liberals breaking shit down, breaking society down. You know, it just sounds more and more, okay? It just sounds more and more like this Biden regime is leaving the doors open, okay, for people on the right to get hurt. That's just my opinion. But let's continue.
Bongino, is Speaker Johnson, what's What's his job?
That would be Capitol Hill Police, but it speaks to a larger issue with these security failures. What was mentioned about 3/4 of the way through that text, where everything becomes about optics. I'll give you just a quick example. You know, think about this. Why are Secret Service agents out there wearing suits? You don't see that with a lot of Israeli Shin Bet and others, because the threat over there is existential every day. I mean, these are little things. You're worried about optics and what people look like, you know, red ties on agents and guys who've got their shoes shined, when you're not worried about door kickers who are going to keep you alive.
Exactly.
The good show part is a problem, and it's ubiquitous, whether it's DSS, whether it's Capitol, whether it's Secret Service. We have to start focusing on job tasks and not, you know, operational optics or who's got the freshly pressed suit on. These guys have to be out there ready to go into action and defeat that 15, 20-man Hezbollah team or group of Sicarios Eric's talking about before. This was a 20-year-old kid who broke them down. Can you imagine if they had detonated, taken out that fence line and rushed a 10, 15-man team in there with rifles and heavy weapons? You know, there would have been a mass murder scene. That motorcade would have never gotten out of there.
That's insane. You know what he said? Just the thought of it, okay? I mean, it should really make you wonder, okay? Like in the last video when he said that there was no drone out there, you know, overhead, you know, just watching, just in case to see if there's a threat from afar coming, you know, like maybe a whole convoy of cars or something like that, you know, just barreling down the road. You know, when it comes to political officials, if somebody has enough money, okay, you know, and they're just in that life where they're out there to try to get somebody, if they want to do it, they'll do it. And I think that history has showed us that when it comes to like ambushes and stuff like that against political figures, it happens. It truly happens. So to be so lackadaisy, especially here in America, we know that because of the all the secret black ops and shit that, you know, the government does, that there are so many, you know, forces around the world and dark forces also. They're no better themselves, okay? They're just as wicked and fucking evil that they have the means to try to pull one of these things off. And you would think that, you know, regardless of who's in the White House, that they would like really beef up the security and let people know that, you know what, listen, you're not going to get through, you know, you're not going to get through this line of defense. But they're just so damn lackadaisy about it. But yet, at the DNC convention, everybody had to show ID in order to get into the convention. Why? You're not checking for ID at the border. You're letting in terrorists, gang members, okay, drug dealers, rapists, murderers. But when it comes to the Democrats, they have to be protected. When it comes to everybody else, it's like, you know what, we're just going to hire some new recruits. And if they send in 3 letters in a row bitching about how they deserve the job, they're going to get it. And then that's what we're going to put on detail to protect you. You know? I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And like I said, the way Dan Bongino is explaining everything, this is not, like he was saying, this is not some, I believe he said some hyperbole or whatever the case is. These are actual things. These are facts that this man is putting out. This is the way you have to think when you're in a position, okay, as high as Secret Service, or even if you're a regular, cop on the street, you know, just walking the beat. You have to have this different sense of your surroundings, of the way things are. You got to be able to think quick, look outside, you know, think outside the box. You know, but you can't do it like being paranoid at the same time. You know, that's why I tell a lot of people, you know, and I've had friends and family that would ask me advice about them being a firefighter or being a cop, you know, and I would always, and even going into the military, and I would always tell them the same thing. Is it in your heart to do it, or are you doing it for a fucking paycheck? Because if you're doing it for a paycheck, that job is not for you. It's got to come from your heart. Plain and simple. I believe that. I will always believe that. But let's continue.
You were talking about slings earlier and how long it took the Secret Service to adopt slings on their primary weapon system. Why is it important to have a sling on primary weapon system? And what is this Why did it take so long for the Secret Service to get on board with having their agents carry slings?
You know, I candidly wish I was joking with you guys, but I'm not. The Secret Service's operating kind of de facto motto when I was there about technology, we're laughingly calling it sling technology. I mean, it's like technology like the wheels technology, right? Is because we've always done it that way. I'm not kidding. You get a bunch of Secret Service agents up here and you get them on the record, and they will tell you exactly that. You know, I remember when GPS technology first started, and President Bush was riding his bike, and we brought a guy into headquarters, and we said, hey, we're losing President Bush a lot on the bike. I mean, he was a good biker. He'd go in the woods. And, I mean, the guys were with him, but the motorcade was having a hard time finding him. Well, maybe we should look at this thing called GPS. We've never done it that way before. Why would you need a sling? For 1,000 different reasons. You may need to go hands-on. You may need to grab a ladder. You may have a weapons malfunction.
Exactly.
What are you going to do? Hand the weapon to someone else in the crowd while I get my pistol? This is technology the military's been using, as you know, for since World War I. Who knows? It's just it's a mentality where no one wants to take a chance, and if nothing's happened because they got lucky in the past, then there's no reason to change anything.
Mr. Prince,
That's crazy.
I heard you had an interesting take on a public episode that I heard you doing an interview on. A lot of Americans believe that this was possibly an inside job, just based on everything.
Okay, now, I said in the last video about something that this gentleman said. Now, this is where he's going to say it, all right? I'll rewind it a little bit so you guys can hear the question, how it starts. But I want you to pay attention to his answer here, and if I can catch it at the end again, something that I just found to be very strange. But let's continue.
Prince, I heard you had an interesting take on a public episode that I heard you doing an interview on. A lot of Americans believe that this was possibly an inside job, just based on everything that they've seen leading up to the assassination attempt. They saw efforts to impeach Donald Trump. They saw efforts to, put him into bankruptcy. They saw the DOJ weaponized against him, and they saw, folks try and put him in jail for 750 years, and then this happens. I know you have an interesting take on that where you really don't believe that. Can you go ahead and share that with this panel today?
You're right. There is a long list of ways that the one political party has weaponized all aspects of government in our society against their political opponent. And that is exceedingly dangerous for the survival of the republic, because that can go both ways. I don't think this was a grand conspiracy, another shooter, etc. Because if there was a second shooter, when the 20-year-old was shot and the Secret Service detail did an awful job of getting Trump off the X and let him stand up again, great instincts of the president to come back defiant, having just been shot in the head, to come back and say, fight, fight, fight. Great instincts on him. He never should have had the opportunity to do that, because his detail should have put him horizontal and moved him off there immediately. If there was a second shooter, it was a prime time for them to be shooting. So,
Okay, so you heard what he said. You heard the question. You heard his answer. Now, I am not against this man at all. But when I heard this, I was like, okay, he feels this is his, his opinion of how he feels. Granted, that's fine. Like I said, I'm not trying to put this man down. But then later on, I caught something else that he said, and if I can catch it quickly enough, I'll pause it and explain. It's almost as if, he said the quiet part out loud. Like he basically spoke his mind. He really said what was on his mind. And like I said, when I catch it, I'll point it out. And to me, it pertains to this question. Okay, and I'll try to explain it a little better when I get to it, but let's continue.
I don't believe there is a second shooter. I think this is a litany of incompetence. And it speaks to, as we also remember the anniversary of the debacle of Afghanistan, our problem is we have a federal government that doesn't have any accountability in any way, shape,
Exactly.
or form. And I push back on you in Congress to affect the bureaucracy the one way that they care: cut their damn budget.
There you go.
Starve them out.
There you go.
Nothing else will get their attention other than their starvation.
And just a little quick side note, okay? Donald Trump was asked. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump did, and I have yet to see the whole video, just about 7 or 8 minutes of it. I don't know if anybody knows the comedian Theo Von. Theo Von has his own show, and he interviewed Donald Trump, I'd say about a few days ago, a week ago. And one of the questions that is circulating is that Donald Trump might give Elon Musk a position in his cabinet. Okay? Now, Donald Trump said a long time ago that he thinks that all these organizations, FBI, CIA, all these agencies, that there's, number one, there's too many of them, there's too much spending, they should all be balled into one, so like that they know how to weed out the good actors and the bad actors, and they know how to save a lot of money. When Theo Von asked him that question, would you put, what kind of position would you give Elon Musk? I forgot what position he told him, but Donald Trump basically said that Elon Musk is good when it comes to like basically trimming out and cutting the fat. In other words, he knows how to get rid of, he knows how to stop wasteful spending. Okay? And now you got this man saying the only way to beat them is to starve them, starve their money, starve their pockets, stop giving them so much money. In my opinion, and I know a lot of people don't like Elon Musk, that's fine. I mean, everybody has, their own beliefs and all that. But if you're going to give somebody a position like that can, in my opinion, that will be able to help Donald Trump when it comes to like frivolous spending, how to put a stop to it, that's where you would get somebody like Elon Musk to be, like I said, in my opinion, to give advice to whoever, or maybe not even give him the job, but have him be a consultant and say, listen, you need to cut spending here, here, and here. You need to starve these organizations in these departments. And like this man said, that's how you wind up getting back at them. Stop giving them so much damn money. You have the power of the purse. They say we need $30 billion for this. We want receipts. We want reasons. We want to know who's going to get a raise, who's not, who deserves it, who doesn't. That's the only way you do it, because so much money. Okay, case in point, like they asked earlier in the other video I did, that they allocated $3 billion for Secret Service. And it was like, where did that money go? Because obviously the training doesn't reflect the amount of money that was spent on them. But let's continue.
Well, I can definitely agree with that. I think all of us on here have been willing to shut the government if we're not willing to shut the border, and we've made that clear at times.
Exactly.
With that, I'll hand it over for the Honorable Matt Gaetz for 5 minutes.
I've learned a lot in this session, and here's what I think I've picked up. One thing did not go wrong that resulted in President Trump being shot. Mr. Bongino explained the 3 different layers and the lack of air controls. Mr. Schaefer explained the comms breakdowns. You got the paperwork back and forth with the field office and headquarters. So all these things are going wrong. So then the obvious question is, why did that systemic cascading failure occur? And I think you've given us really good testimony as to why. First, it's Bongino saying, well, this was bound to happen, based on these structural failures, with technology failures, with this embrace of DEI and a quota system. You had a very low floor to start with. And then I don't want to bury the lead here. You heard Mr. Prince's testimony that he believes that a motivation here might be they just didn't deem Trump a sufficiently worthy protectee, and that could inform on it. And then I think the most damaging, and I never really contemplated until you gave the testimony, Mr. Bongino, that giving the Trump detail the assets they requested, air, additional manpower presence, more folks, so that not everything is pushed out to locals, but indeed is the folks that have gone through the type of training that you provided in Maryland. Well, that was because that kind of a force posture could make Trump appear more presidential, more ascendant, more in charge. And I do think that in addition to what Mr. Prince has said about budget, there are things Congress can do to direct specific demands for documents around those 3 vectors and work on all of them.
Yep.
To the structural issues, Mr. Prince, is it something leadership can fix? Because one thing we found is that you try to put downward pressure on any budget around here for anything, and it's like you're committing a war crime. And in some cases, we've seen some agencies improve when you get the right leadership in and can administer an effective agency. What's your perspective on that?
I remember in the late 80s, during the Iran-Contra crisis, controversy. And the CIA was not being forthcoming with some documents that Congress had requested. And of course, the Democrats were in charge of Congress then. Tip O'Neill was the speaker. He made it very clear that he was specifically withholding all the pay for all the SIS, the Special Intelligence Service, Senior Intelligence Service officers at CIA headquarters until those documents were delivered.
There you go.
Shocker, the documents were delivered by Friday to the Congress. Bureaucrats will respond to very specific pain points. I think it even speaks wider than this debacle in Butler, Pennsylvania, but the fact that and it speaks to under-resourcing Trump. They no-resourced Bobby Kennedy, RFK, when his uncle assassinated while president, his father assassinated while attorney general for the act of politics in America. And they denied him. So it is.
And just another quick side note. Sorry, folks. This and it came out yesterday in the news. Everybody knows that Bobby Kennedy said he's going to endorse Trump, so he's dropping out of the race. He's pulling his name from the ballot. Now they're saying the Democrats are saying that Kamala needs Minnesota or Michigan or both, whatever the case is, or Pennsylvania, whatever the case is. Now they're denying Bobby Kennedy, if you can believe this. They're telling him that they're not going to let him take his name off the ballot in Minnesota and Michigan. Can you believe that? First they don't give him any kind of security. Then they don't want him to run. Okay? Now that he wants to pull out and endorse Trump, they're trying to tell him in Minnesota and Michigan that he is not allowed to take his name off the ballot. I don't know too much about politics when it comes to this, when it comes to like elections, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Has anybody ever heard of somebody pulling out of a race, of a presidential race, any kind of political race where they're running for any position, where they're being told, no, you cannot drop out of the race? I've never heard of that. Okay? But that's what's going on. And it's almost as if, you know what? They're trying to make him not have his voters vote for Trump. They're trying to keep him on the ballot. It's like, wait a minute, the man doesn't want to be on the ballot. Since when is somebody forced to be on a ballot? This is crazy, but I just thought I'd throw that in since he mentioned his name. Let's continue.
It's not too much to surmise that a politicized Secret Service succumbing to the whims of Jill Biden, sending 4 post holders to cover Trump, 12 to cover Jill Biden. At that point, no coverage of Bobby Kennedy. Again, this can only be solved. Congress has the power of purse. Use it as a large bludgeon.
There you go. There you go.
Mr. Schaefer, is there any dynamic you think I've missed in sort of summarizing this as, you know, low agency performance generally layered with the other dynamics that the other witnesses have shared?
I don't believe so, Congressman. I think you've covered most of the relevant points in describing how that posture all relates and how this, you know, began as maybe a single failure and multiplied into a much greater failure, you know, just based on different levels. I'll say that, you know, the local law enforcement agencies that were involved that day, both tactical and non-tactical, were improvising, adapting, and overcoming to a lack of intelligence that was provided to them that day. You know, in my historical background, you know, in the Marine Corps, you know, these types of events require planning, require reconnaissance, require intelligence.
Exactly.
In multiple stages. It requires rehearsals, things that were not seen in this event for this day. My knowledge is when I came onto the scene that morning, that I was fed multiple briefs and multiple maps of the area. I gathered information as much as I could the night before, which is about the same time as my commander had received the briefings for that day. So we really felt like we were on the back foot and just tried to overcome that throughout the day and gather what we could.
Great, thank you. My time's expired, but I think you've all provided us excellent areas for further inquiry.
Insane.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. I want to go over some forensic questions because I think that as we continue to peel the layers back, what we don't find is enough answers, but more questions that need to be asked. Just in a quick yes or no, do you find it odd that literally only days after the attempted assassination on President Donald J. Trump, while the roof was too sloped to place individuals for counter-sniper operations, that it wasn't too sloped to a roof for the FBI to go ahead and tamper, in my opinion, with evidence by washing the roof off that may have had significant evidence on it? Do you find that odd?
Yes, I do, Congress.
Mr. Prince?
Yeah, I certainly don't realize, I don't understand what the rush was to wash a roof.
Mr. Bongino?
No doubt.
Do we also find it odd that, as of recent, one of our colleagues, Representative Higgins, had uncovered the fact that the body of Matthew Crooks had not only been released and cremated, but that the coroner who's responsible for releasing the body had no knowledge of it? Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Prince?
That's insane.
It sounds like destruction of evidence.
Yep.
Mr. Bongino?
Given the gravity of what happened, absolutely.
Do you also find it odd that no ballistics, no toxicology report, no confidence in the actual, I guess, proof of who it was who took the shot has been provided to date? And also, just to follow on to that, how quickly the crime scene at the home was actually released before any evidence had been obtained and released? Mr. Schaefer?
In total analysis of your question, I think it warrants maybe a little more than a yes or no. I absolutely find that to be troubling. I also find that there were multiple friendlies that engaged the shooter that day, and no report has been given back to that local agency that was involved in that information. I feel that's critical.
Mr. Prince?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of things that just smell around the entire thing, and like I said in my opening statement, only the disinfectants of transparency will clean this up. And so covering it up and hiding only compounds a really bad look on the federal government.
Mr. Bongino?
Yeah, I'll say again, given the gravity of the situation, extremely odd.
Do we find it odd that in addition to a 20-year-old not having a social media presence and being scrubbed, that in addition to having the knowledge on how to create sophisticated explosive devices with a multi-channel transmitter, that there was also leaked evidence or leaked information on regards to 3 encrypted accounts? Do you find it odd that these encrypted accounts, which are overseas, has not been discussed and or talked about at any point? Mr. Schaefer?
Absolutely, Congress.
Mr. Prince?
In the same way that Congress passed the law in 1992 that within 25 years, all things related to the Kennedy assassination were supposed to be declassified and released, why cover this up? Why, again, what is being covered and what is being covered up and why, and it makes a bad situation even worse.
Mr. Bongino?
It's true.
Odd, to say the least, yes.
I want to go back to something earlier as well. Mr. Bongino, Secret Service, NYPD, worked in the actual training of it. Do you believe that a protective detail should be appointed based upon the title you carry or the threat level based upon the office in which you are to obtain?
It should exclusively be based on a threat assessment. It should have nothing to do with the title.
And do you agree that if you were the Secret Service director, that when the request came in based on President Trump's profile, based on the existing threats that would need to be mitigated, based on the request by his own officers, that would be something that you would approve or disapprove?
There isn't a scenario where a sane, rational, well-trained Secret Service agent would deny CSU or counter-sniper assets to a threat, to a protectee with a threat footprint like Donald Trump. Not a chance.
Yeah, but it also depends on who's in charge. Okay, that's why I keep saying that it just depends on who's in the White House, because obviously, like I said, that's the way Dan Bongino thinks. That's what makes him stand out, just like these other 2 gentlemen stand out from all the rest, to say, you know what, this is the job that's entailed. This is what needs to be done. But depending on who is pulling the strings up top, which obviously it is, okay, Joe Biden. And when I mean pulling the strings, that he's in charge, he's the president. Obviously, somebody is being told, don't worry about certain people. We're not going to give them any protection. Whatever happens, happens. It's incredible. It really is.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I know that you're enjoying the private sector, but I can tell you we'd have been far better off by having the director of the Secret Service,
There you
Dave
go.
Bongino,
Absolutely.
than it be Ronald Rowe or Director Cheadle. I'm going to go ahead with this and turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Honorable Chip Roy, for 5 minutes.
Thank my friend from Florida. I know some of you are on a clock, got to get out of here at 2 o'clock. I think we're going to come right up on that number. I'll just have a few questions really quickly. First of all, because we had some conversations earlier about the building from which Mr. Crooks was able to position himself. One of the things that's been talked about is the slope of the roof and all this nonsense. People, we've seen members, Clay Higgins, some of these guys have been able to walk on that roof. But one of the things that I was questioning about, nothing was deployed, given the extent that it was allowed to have the perimeter inside of that, and then allowed that guy to be able to get access to it, and all the stuff you're talking about with the rings, and they didn't even deploy anything like putting barbed wire up or anti-climb spikes or anything else, right? There was literally nothing put up to deter someone from being able to get access to those buildings. Is that correct, Mr. Schaefer? You were on site.
Yes, Congressman, that is correct.
And I mean, would that have been, again, given that it wasn't within the perimeter, would that have been another thing they could have done? Was done something to at least limit the ability to have access to the building? Put some sort of anti-climb spikes, barbed wire, anything up around it?
Yes, there were multiple possibilities on how to defeat that or possibly take that out of play as a threat area.
A question I'd ask Mr. Prince, you raised the defunding question. I don't think anybody questions where I personally come from on desire to defund a large chunk of government to the extent that I possibly can. But that being said, I think it was Mr. Gates who laid out the extent to which you're viewed as basically a war criminal if you dare, raise those issues. But the real issue is, right, it's always the threat of shutdown, right? It's like, oh, things will shut down. And so this is my actual specific question. The psychology is always reversed. It says if you take the money away from the Secret Service in this case, or let's say we're talking about Border Patrol, dealing with the border. We had Mark Morgan here earlier. Anything we do to say, hold on, no, we're not going to give you this funding unless we get X. And then the other side says, well, you're taking away the funding from the thing you say you want. And i.e., we want a competent Secret Service. What is your response to that as someone who has been an effective and efficient manager of a large-scale organization dealing with security, to push back on that argument, which I think is a flawed argument? I have my own views on it, but I want to hear your thoughts.
What made America great, what made our society effective in the first place was competition, was innovation and efficiency from the private sector. Government did not make America great. And so that is a fundamental difference in paradigm that needs to be settled at the ballot box. And even Republicans have to return to being they have to return to be the party of fiscal sanity, because even Republicans have been runaway spenders, prolific, and it's like going downhill on one ski instead of on two skis. We've been going downhill.
Mr. Schaefer, and this is a question that I don't know exactly what you're going to say to it, but as someone who's on the ground and familiar with it, was there anything, we have that video, which I'm not going to pull up for sake of time, where you've got the sniper sitting up on the roof behind the president, right, and seemed to be looking across the direction where Mr. Crooks was located. Was there at any point any rules of engagement or any orders coming down from on high that prohibited those individuals from reacting, to the best of your knowledge? Because I'm trying to figure out what was in their line of sight, and again, that's speculative from my standpoint because I'm not there.
Sure. So I can speak on both locations. So the north team, we'll call them, in the northern side of the buildings there, had a few obstructions visually to be able to engage them, to engage the shooter at that point in time. The southern team had a much better vantage point, and that speaks directly just to the location and proximity to where the shooter was located. However, going back to our earlier discussion about compromised authority, and Mr. Bongino can add to this as well, in that capacity, we don't need authorization. We don't need any other things other than the prerequisites for a threat to meet a deadly force response.
That's the way it should be.
I appreciate that. And Mr. Bongino, I'll let you comment on that, and I'll ask you one more question in closing, because I know you need to go. We had some reporting from Ms. Crabtree, who was here with the panel earlier and is here with us now, earlier about the potential engagement or interference, I should say, by Iranian authorities in terms of our ability to protect our president, Secret Service, and so forth. Do you have any perspectives on that and why that's particularly problematic, or anything to add about that, and how our foreign adversaries are viewing what we're seeing unfold in front of us?
Well, I want you to keep in mind that we've known about the Iranian threat after the death of Soleimani to John Bolton, Donald Trump, former President Trump, and others for well over 3 years now. So there's no, keep in mind, this is a regime that has a history of documented terror attacks who sloganeers death to America. So they're not actually, their motives are, you don't have to investigate their motives, they tell you. They've known about it. If they have, and Susan's an excellent reporter, if you're not following her, you're making a big mistake on this. I have no reason to not believe her reporting or its accuracy. She's been that good.
3 sources, if I remember correctly.
If these 3 sources are accurate, that we have been compromised and security allocation decisions are being made by people under the influence of the Iranian terror regime, then it's going to be a whole different panel if we do this again.
Wow.
By the way, I have to run. I'm sorry. I got to excuse myself. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm done. I yield back.
Well, I want to thank our panelists, but we're going to do a quick close, myself and Congressman Crane. But before I close, I just have one more question for you, Mr. Schaefer, which is, can you tell me exactly how many rounds and how many shots were fired?
Yes, so the total round count that was released after the investigations were done were 10 rounds, 8 by the shooter himself, the threat, and 2 friendly rounds after that.
The 2 rounds both making impact, or can you confirm on this?
That has not been made possible, or we have not had the opportunity to confirm that based on the withheld information of the autopsy report.
And given your
fact that it was cremated,
what also have you heard on the explosives and the sophistication of the devices?
So the explosive devices that were used, the primary charge was a homemade variant known as ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, or AMFO, supposedly manufactured possibly in the residence of the home. Obviously, for those that don't know, in the construction of these types of materials, there's a process. There are things that need to be procured, and most likely those things would have been located through online means, which again leads to more questions, in this matter. And then the programming of those devices were done with a remote detonating device that was specifically designed for that purpose, most commonly used in the commercial fireworks market.
So needless to say that these types of devices being bought would have brought someone up on an FBI watch list potentially, very much so like the Pakistani individual who was arrested on July 12th who had traveled to Iran prior to coming into Houston would have been on that FBI watch list. I want to just thank everyone who's here today. I want to thank everyone who is watching and participating in this. Needless to say, this is the beginning of more of these forums. This is not going to be the only one. We need to get further transparency and accountability for the American people. What we know is that not only was it a catastrophic failure, but all of our subject matter experts and our on ground has confirmed the suspicions that we all know to be true, which is how much of this is criminal gross negligence, how much of this was potentially compromised and purposeful intent, and how much more information is the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Secret Service, and Congress going to be willing to obtain in an effort to try and go ahead and provide this to you, we the people. I think that it's key that we not hide behind the lowest levels of classifications behind closed doors in any of our committees, understanding that Congress and our salaries are paid for by the American taxpayers.
Exactly.
Our House is paid for by the American taxpayers, and therefore the information too should be available to the American taxpayers.
Exactly, and they
I think
never
that
do.
we look at what was the coordination efforts between ESU, HSI, and Secret Service. I think we get to the bottom of who refused, not when, not what, but who refused the surveillance drone, who refused to utilize the communications that were provided, who refused to provide the site security plan that would have shown all the available buildings. Was each individual building numbered, and was those indicated during the time of the actual security planning? Where is Thomas Crooks as far as the toxicology and all the other reports? Where was the white van and what is the follow-up? Why was the FBI so early to release? And even Attorney General Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General, said she had never seen in her time as the Attorney General a crime scene released at such a rapid pace.
Yep.
What was the coroner's understanding of when the body was released, why and how? Why is it that they did not show up to the morning briefing? Why was a Kubota dealership only 400 yards away not being looked at?
So many questions.
Where are the encrypted accounts, and why are we not getting further information? Again,
Insane.
I think that we're understanding that we've investigated the culture of the Secret Service and what needs to change and why DEI is not healthy for our military, for our security services, or otherwise. But I think that we need to further investigate the questions of why did this take place, how did this take place, and what do we do to prevent it in the future and moving forward? I thank everybody, and I'll turn it over for the final and closing remarks by my colleague, Congressman Eli Crane.
You know, and all those questions, so many questions, and the answers are not coming out. And this is why I said that I don't understand. Like I said, forget about the Democrats. Why isn't every Republican in Capitol Hill, every senator, just every single one, how come they are not up in arms? And I don't mean physically up in arms, but I'm saying like just out there and, and demanding, okay, an emergency session in Congress to find out what the hell happened, who's going to answer all these questions, who's going to be responsible, and who's going to wind up being held accountable. You know, if the Democrats don't want to do it, fine. We all know what they're all about. But why is it only 5 guys up here asking questions when we have, I mean, how many people, how many Republicans in Congress, in Washington, you know, in every state? It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. But let's continue.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you to the witnesses for coming today. I want to especially thank Ben Schaefer for coming out today. Anytime you're in law enforcement and you take the risk to come and testify before Congress like this, it takes a lot of courage. So Ben, thank you. I know a lot of other individuals would not be willing to come testify. I also want to thank Mr. Prince for providing your expertise. This is for any whistleblowers out there that want to work with this committee as we move forward.
There you
go. Or this panel, whatever we're calling it. The email is now live if you want to reach out. It's j13tipline@mail.house.gov. That is j13tipline@mail.house.gov. Obviously,
keep that email in mind, people.
This panel,
you never know.
You know how much success we have or don't have is going to rely on whether or not we have people who are willing to whistleblow and come talk to us. And one of the reasons we're doing this, obviously, is because we don't want this to be memory hold, and that's what we see going on right now. It seems like the news cycle moves so fast that this feels like it was 10 years ago already. And unfortunately, if we're going to make sure this never happens again, we need to stay on top of this. We need to keep it front and center, and we need to keep asking questions. And so that's why we're doing this. We'll continue to do it, but because we don't have subpoena authority and power here, we're going to need to rely on whistleblowers. So if you guys want to come talk to us, we'd love to talk to you. That's the place you can do it. Thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to close with one last thing, which is just, we talk about this, we talk about the president. We've certainly, go ahead and put him up there. We just want to make sure we honor and respect the passing of
That's right.
Mr. Comparator. And we're going to keep seeking the truth, but someone died that day.
Exactly.
And that's why this matters. It goes beyond just the assault on the president, but a man lost his life.
Exactly.
Yield back.
All right, I'm going to end it there, and I'm going to apologize because I know I said that I was going to try to pinpoint something that Prince said, and again, I missed it. I caught it that one time. I'm going to have to look through this again and maybe make a short video on that, so I apologize with that, but it's true, and I'm glad that Chip Roy brought up, I can't even really say his name, Comparator, I think it is, the fact that, that he was murdered. Somebody was murdered, and 2 other people ended up in the hospital. For the way the Democrats and people on the left, I mean, they were just so vicious, okay, and not even, you know, giving a damn about, you know, this man who went there, who protected his, you know, his wife and his daughter, and, you know, and got shot and got killed, you know, just because he wanted to go and see someone that, you know, that he's voting for. And yet the left, they make it seem as if, you know, oh, well, you know, that was yesterday's news, let's move forward and let's get back on with attacking Trump and attacking his supporters, you know, or whatever the case is, and keep spoon feeding, okay, that bullshit to their supporters. So like that hate just, you know, just keeps running and running and running. And it's like, you know, I hear so many people on the left leaving comments about people on the right, and one thing they keep saying is that MAGA Republicans that they're soulless. They're soulless. No, you're the ones that are soulless. Okay? You're the ones that are soulless. And like I said, and I also blame, you know, the majority of Republicans, the ones that are not speaking out, because they all should be out there. But it goes to show that regardless of the way the Democrats are, there are a lot of crooked Republicans also. Okay? Forget the fact that they're rhinos, whatever the case is. There are people in our government that, you know what, it should be mind-boggling to anybody to look at this and say, wow, I can't believe that you would think there'd be a lot more people in Congress that will be speaking out about this, banding together and saying, you know what, regardless of who the person was, this should have never happened. Who was behind this? And it's mostly crickets, okay? It's mostly crickets. And that's why I said that, you know, a lot more is going to be coming out. I mean, there's just way too many questions that haven't been answered. And a lot of things that took place before that, during, and after are so suspect. This is why I believe when I said, okay, that this was an inside job. It just seems too damn suspect. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. It just seems too suspect. And if anybody on the left watches this video, just all you have to do, okay, look at the same scenario, same questions, everything, and just switch the person out. Okay? Take away the fact that it was Donald Trump and put the fact that it could have been somebody on your end. With everything that happened, put all that together and just change the person out. And you tell me if you don't think that this was something a lot more deeper than some 20-year-old kid who got up someday with a bug up his ass and say, you know what, I'm going to go and try to kill somebody. There's no way you can't. And if you say that no, that's not it, then you know what? You're part of the damn problem. You are part of the damn problem. But anyway, that's what I got for you. I know the video was long, but I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. Also, what I wanted to mention, like I said in the beginning, that I was going to say at the end of the video, a couple of days ago, I mentioned that I was about 100 hours away from my 4,000 hours. I got in contact with YouTube this morning about the hours, because for some odd reason, the first video that I put out on this, okay, I got well over 75 hours. The video I put out last night, I got over 60 hours. I don't know how many hours this is going to get, but just with that alone is 130 hours. I contacted YouTube. They told me to wait a couple of days, that those hours should kick in. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how they do it. But from my estimates, I should be well over 4,000 hours. Okay? So I'm asking again, and like with all my videos and my videos to come, watch as much as you can. You know, that helps the algorithm, that helps the channel a lot. The more views I get, everybody knows how YouTube works, the better it is, you know, all around. And it just, you know, it'll help me help this channel grow. And hopefully someday and someday soon, I can do this full time, okay? I won't need to be, you know, asking anybody. And I you know, I have one of my subscribers apologizing that they couldn't donate to me. This is not about me making money to put in my pocket, Okay, that's not what it's all about. If anybody knows why I started my channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where I want this to go. This is why I started it. If you want to help, that's fine. Then by all means, go right ahead. But I mean, with the way things are going on with the economy, listen. If you can't, you can't. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't want anything from anybody. If you can help out, I prefer you give it to somebody else, especially if I put a link in the description to help out somebody else, like I've been doing with my friend Josie and with Loza Alexander. Because my channel is, like I said, I started my channel to be a catalyst, to do something bigger, okay, in order to help people, okay. But the one thing that would definitely help the channel, like I said, is watching as much hours as you can, as much of the video as you can, leaving comments, thumbs up, passing the channel around, okay, so like that the channel could grow and grow and grow, because this is like I said, this is a movement. I'm not out here, I'm not trying to put like clickbait, I mean, a lot of people tell me, oh, your thumbnails they're not boring, but they're not eye-catching. I mean, listen, I'm trying to keep it as straight up and real as possible. Okay, and no offense towards anybody that does what they do on YouTube. Do what you got to do. I mean, that that's the way you got to do it. I just feel I do things differently, and it's just the way I am. And who knows? Maybe if things go really, really well, where I can out of my pocket I can pay somebody to help me and make the channel look better. I guess I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I didn't even expect to get this far. Okay, and it's been a journey, and I thank all of you out there that are part of the channel, part of the family, part of the movement, and even the ones that didn't join the channel but have left me positive comments. That's okay, because I understand there's a lot of people that do like YouTube. They like it for information, but they don't spend a lot of time on it. That's why they don't subscribe to a lot of channels, and that's totally understandable. It's totally fine. One more quick thing also, if you can join my Rumble channel, that'll help out there also. I usually put the same content anyway, but for a just-in-case backup, you never know. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. But with that being said, people, thank you so much. And remember, stay vigilant, keep praying for each other, keep praying for the women and the children, pray for your enemies, pray for this country, pray for Donald Trump, and don't forget to get out there and vote. Peace.